Hi, welcome to the Mom Files, Moments of Motherhood podcast, a place where the hard things have room to exist without shame.
If you're a mom, you'll get realistic routines, gentle validation, and encouragement to try new things. We're here to be your village, a judgment-free zone for modern motherhood. Take what fits for you and leave the rest.
We're happy you're here. Let's jump in. Welcome back to Mom Files. Today we're going to dive into talking about, can you love being a parent but also miss who you were before having kids? I definitely think that this is something that when talking to moms, it's kind of a recurring theme. We love being parents, but a lot of us, I won't say all of us, but a lot of us found that transitioning from who we were before, who we are after children, was something that we weren't quite prepared for, or at least not really given warning that you're going to be like a whole different person. So I'll jump into it and kind of my experience from what I remember from the pregnancy stage, and just kind of the feeling of realizing that I'm not who I was before. What works for me now might be different. And it really, it hit me hard. I know Aleea might have had a little more warning from me, but I definitely, as soon as people found out that I was pregnant, it was immediately like, hey, hope you're ready for everything to change, which still was not good preparation for me, I will say. Because I'm like, yeah, obviously everything's changing. Like, my body is not mine. I look, feel, act different. And I'm like literally I'm going to be pushing a human into this world. Obviously, my world is about
and then adding a human.
That's what, right? And then for me too, as you know, Aleea, I moved. I was at a pretty new job. So I'm like, yeah, my whole life is kind of up in shambles. So obviously everything is changing. But they didn't really talk to me about how everything was going to change for me as a person. So I do feel like that was a really hard journey for me. I will tell anybody who wants to listen that I mourned myself as a single being before, when I was pregnant. I had, quotes, one of the easiest pregnancies you could probably ever have, really no issues. And so people were often really confused when I was like, I hate being pregnant. I could feel the looming, you're not going to be who you were, whether it be hormones, or I am just also a very introspective person. So I could tell things were making me feel differently. But yeah, I know. And then when I had Azzy, nothing that I liked before really sounded like fun. I know I've talked, and I will talk about my love for makeup and my love for plants, even my love for my dog. A lot of things just kind of became a nuisance. And the things that I liked before having Azzy, I'm not saying I didn't like, but it became a whole different thing to me. So yeah, we can go deeper into it. But Aleea, did you have any of the similar what's going on?
Yeah, definitely. That is something I definitely struggled with, and I still do. And I think, and I know for you, it was something that you also experienced, is I wasn't planning on being a mom anytime soon. For me, it was definitely a surprise, it wasn't a bad surprise, but it was a surprise. And so I had to process the fact that my life before having a child was just gone, in a sense. It just vanished. And it was a lot to take in. I was super excited, but I just felt like all my life plans changed. I had to now flow with these new feelings, learn how to adjust with the sudden changes, especially because I just find change to be hard no matter what kind of change it is. And so this was obviously a really big life change. And once you take a minute and sit with those feelings, it does become easier to embrace. But I think you made an excellent point when you were talking about being pregnant, because I also had I was blessed to have a really good pregnancy as well.
Mm-hmm.
I also felt this looming, you don't know when they're going to come. And so I just was always stressed, okay, is it going to happen? I don't know, you want to be excited, but then you're also trying to deal with oh, I only have 9 months to do all of this stuff.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. And then you're also oh, I have 9 months to do all of this stuff.
Right.
So it's a constant, internal battle, I guess. It's you're excited, but then you're wait, this is my last 9 months of being, in quotes, alone. It's just a lot of feelings to take in. Yeah,
no, I would agree with that. That was going to be something I would add too, was the excitement of having her. But, like, for me, the not knowing because
Mhm.
you can plan as much as you want. I am, a realist, and I knew there was not very much planning for what this baby was gonna be like, for what I was gonna be like with her because babies all need something different, right? So, that juxtaposition of, like, being excited, but also being like I could only be excited to a certain point because I didn't know what was to come. Was I gonna like being a mom? I love children, and I have a very maternal instinct, mommy hobby, we all know. Nobody that knows me will be surprised hearing that. But, like, it still is like, okay, this is a human being that I'm supposed to cultivate in this world that's, like that changes a lot too on top of your hormones and stuff. So if you're like me and you're, like, super introspective and you're like it was just extra hard even in just the pregnancy, and I nothing had even changed really, but you say, like, this is your last 9 months to be alone, but I remember being like, "But I'm not alone," is the thing, and everything that I do affects, like, not even the not being able to drink, right? That wasn't but, like, you want a sandwich, you have supposedly, you're supposed to you have to heat it up. You want, certain food, you
You're
have to do
instantly
these
restricted. Yeah.
exactly, you wanna have your coffee. You can only
1
have a
cup.
certain amount a day, like, all these things and it's things that, like, before I didn't have an issue with. I would have put those
Mhm.
restrictions on myself, but like I mentioned in I think the last podcast that we filmed, as soon as you give me a restriction, I, like, push against it, which I think made it more hard for me in the beginning because I was like, "Is this just gonna be parenthood? Like, I'm literally gonna not be able to do anything that I want or have anything that I want when I'm allowing myself to want it because I'm not supposed to do it or have it."
Yeah. It's always easy when you put restrictions on yourself versus, like, forced
Right.
restrictions.
Like, I wanna you're telling me I can't have a sandwich, but then there's also the, like, what if you just go have a sandwich?
Mhm.
Who's it gonna hurt? I don't know, that's the problem.
Right. Yeah, and if you are someone who does eat sandwiches and you're comfortable with that, great, but I know I personally wasn't just because I was like, "Why take the risk?"
Yeah.
And
Well, and
it's
there's
funny because
things
I didn't really care about sandwiches until I was pregnant, and then I was like, I was craving fucking sandwiches.
well, this is gonna make me sound so bad, but that's how I was with alcohol. I wanted to drink so bad. I remember craving beer. I don't like drinking. Right back to it. I'm still like, I feel like I should want to be having a drink, but I don't want to. But there were things that I think that was honest. I think, and I don't even know if it was a pregnancy craving or if it was more like a you cannot. This is the one thing that
Mhm.
you do not want to do. But I will say, like, I think with everything comes just like a side note. With everything, there's like a little bit of. I've seen women who eat lunch meat or seafood or things, and I think it's just like in moderation. Like everything. I mean, that's like now doctors are saying if you need a glass of wine to calm down when you're pregnant, have a glass of wine. It's not gonna, like, do anything. But then there's also the people around you, which we could go into for days. But kind of that being, like, a great segue into how it's okay to, like, one, it's okay to mourn who you were, but when is it okay to mourn that and, like, still love your children, if that makes sense? Like, can you still be upset about it, but have
Mhm.
a good relationship with your child?
Yeah. You are allowed to feel both feelings. Like, I hate this notion that it's like it's an all or nothing, where it's like you can either fully love motherhood or you, like, hate motherhood, but I'm like, why can't there be, like, a happy medium where it's like, yeah, sometimes you do dislike them, but
Right.
at the same time, it's like you can still be so grateful and enjoy the journey of motherhood. You just maybe are like that moment, maybe you're not loving. Like, I don't think there should be like, I think you can have both feelings at the same time.
Yeah. Well, and I don't necessarily think that it makes you not loving. You can, like,
Right.
mourn something and love something at the same time. Like, I think for some reason, we're taught that having, like, 2 emotions at one time is, like, not okay. But I also, like, because I was thinking about this a lot when we were talking about this episode and how, like, because that's part of why we started this, right? Like, we are kind of sick of being moms who have to, like, prove that they love their children to then also be able to say, like, "I need some space," or whatever the case. And I was thinking about why I'm like that, like, why well, because. I'm getting a little more into the point where I'm like, I'm not like that, right? Like, I don't have to explain myself for not wanting to do something or whatever. But, like, why do women feel like they need to? And my mom was a great example. I mean, I'm the youngest of 8 children, right? So her whole life was about children and her children. And she literally put everything to the side to be a stay-at-home mom and to raise us. And I think I saw that and that's what I expected. Like, that's what I was told. Like, as soon as you have kids, your life is about your kids. I had a weird time with Azzy, like, being like, okay, my whole life is about her. Absolutely. I would drop everything in a heartbeat for her, but I also don't have to. I can want time alone. I can have my job. I can, do like things differently and it not be a bad thing. But I definitely would say like that has been really hard for me because all the women in my life with their kids, it's like, okay, we didn't pursue an education or we didn't pursue a career. And I think our generation's doing a lot better at that. But it is definitely that feeling of like there's something wrong with me for wanting to like trying to figure out if I was going to end up being a stay-at-home mom or if I was going to continue to have my career. Was like, am I wrong for wanting to keep my career and spend time with my child? Like I had
Right.
I had best of both worlds, but
Yeah, and I think you make an excellent point because also think there is a component naturally because, like, I mean, you've mentioned it. You have always had kind of that maternal. I didn't. I never thought I would be a mom. Like, it's never like being a mom was just not something like, a lot of kids are like, oh, I want to be a mom one day.
yeah.
That was not something that ever came into my mind, which, by the way, if that's you and you'd like an episode on that topic, I definitely think that is a, great topic because I feel extremely maternal now. And it was crazy because it was like right after I gave birth, it was wild how naturally my mindset just went to like fully about
Yeah.
definition. It was like, it was hard to focus on other things as well. I actually
Mhm.
found once I got out of kind of like the early postpartum and was starting to feel like myself again, it was easy to be like, okay, wait, I am still a human being. I do still have things to focus on that's not just him, but it was
Right.
crazy how all of a sudden it was like tunnel vision. It was like child. Everything else just kind of, you're on the wait side. But I think it was also a really good reminder for me because I sometimes I do get caught up in it just being about him because it's all I have going on. Like before it was the pet. Like I would talk
Mhm.
about my cat and like the dog and like that was kind of what was happening. And now I feel like it's kind of flipped where now that I have him, it's something I can talk about and like
Mhm.
things like that. But at the same time, I'm like, it was a reminder and it's kind of shown me like I do need to continue finding more ways to bring myself back
Yeah.
to, like myself. Like, for example, jumping back into more work, doing this podcast, like it helps put more hype. Like I'm able to focus more on myself and like things that matter to me versus just my child.
No, totally. I think that's a great point. I think as he was Dash's age, I used to joke, but honestly, it was really true that my whole personality was my child. And now I'm getting out of it more, right? We're doing this podcast.
Mhm.
I'm doing more things on the side that I love because I have more time and stuff. But it really was like I would come home to visit friends who didn't have kids and they'd be like, so how's life? And I'd be like, haha, work and child. Like, I'm sorry. Maybe you'll understand one day. But it really was like, and I made that joke like last time I went somewhere and I was like, hey, my personality isn't all about my child anymore. But that, like, to me, I think also that was hard for me because I'm like, is it also, do I want Azzy to see mom have her whole life be solely about me? That's what I saw growing up, and there wasn't anything wrong with it. That's not who I am as a woman.
Right.
So I was like, what do I want to show my child? And at the end of the day, I think, and I talk to moms about this a lot when we're being harder on ourselves about a certain thing. I try to remind, like, what would we want our daughters to do or our sons to do or our children to do in general? And a lot of the time, the answer is the opposite of what we're doing. So for me, it was like, well, my whole world is her and that's my tunnel vision. And now, like Aleea said, like as they get older, it's a little bit easier to be like, okay, like that's what I needed to do when they were younger. But now we're getting to a point where I can do something different. And seeing how Azzy has reacted to me having my own personality is honestly one of the cutest things ever. Because like this morning makeup, she was like, "Mommy, do your makeup." And I had to put on a little bit, and she did her and her dad's makeup. And I was like, these are things that we wouldn't have if I didn't bring back or find my own self again. It's different than it was before, but otherwise, it's like she started, taking care of babies and stuff, and I was like, "Is this what you want, or is this because this is the only example you have is mommy just taking care of you?" The same thing with work. Like, I don't know, you remember me telling you at, like, 1.5, 2 years old, she was like, "I have to work." And I'm like, "Why is
You're like,
this
"Oh,
what we're playing?"
playing work." No, it's so true. And one, I think when you, like you said, you saw your mom and it wasn't an issue. So if this, like, maybe you do identify with just being a mom and you don't want a job, and that's great too.
Yeah,
But if you are someone that wants more, I'm like, that's also okay. And you should be allowed to
right.
explore outside. Right. So I'm like, you make an excellent point. And I think honestly, it's a great reminder. Our kids show us maybe sometimes what we're hyper focusing on and like the
Absolutely.
stuff that's not important. Work is important. But at that time, you're like, wait, maybe I'm doing too much work and like need to find some time for fun. So this
Literally.
isn't what we're hyper focused on.
Literally, like, because I was like, "What?" And no, you're exactly right. I mean, seeing my mom be the parent that she wanted to be, I thought that that is what I wanted to do because she loved it so much, and I loved kids when I was younger, so I was like, I'm gonna be the best mom ever." And I am, I think, but it looks very different for me than it did for my mom. I don't want 8 children, I love that for her, and that was, like, her, like, that was her joy and stuff, and but I do, like, as an adult, looking back, I'm like, there's things that she missed out on that she didn't see as missing out on, but I do, so I'm gonna change a few things. But it's yeah, exactly, like, everybody's personality and what they want, and if your quote, unquote, if your whole personality really is your children, that's what you really love, I like, that is amazing, but it was hard for me to reconcile with that's not who I was.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Do you have a podcast and a pile of laundry staring you down? Are you questioning your life choices during nap time or working at midnight with one eye open and 3 tabs running?
Yeah, same. We've lived that chaos. Hey, still living it. That's why we offer podcast editing and post-production services for the moms who have things to say, but zero time to do all the things. Let us help you get your voice out there without losing your mind, your message, or your weekend.
Think less burnout, more snuggles. Less tech stress, more talking to your audience in peace. Interested? Tap the link in the description to learn more. Plus, we offer free discovery calls, no pressure, just real talk to see if we vibe.
Let's make podcasting easier because you're already doing enough.
And I think that really leads us into a great point. Like, how do we reframe this idea that to love your children, like you can love your children, but you don't have to love everything that, is being a parent. And you can also have other things, if that
Right.
makes sense.
Absolutely. And I mean, this goes into it, but like little sidebar, I think you can combine parenting with having your own thing because at the end of the day, like I said, I do like having my own things, but Azzy is literally my world. So most of the things that I do, like I said, the makeup, she's like, she joins in on. Sometimes I do it myself and stuff, but like plants, I include her on. Found my passion for having my indoor plants again. I involve her in it. So I'm not saying that to have your own thing, your child doesn't get to be a part of it. But I do think there are things that like there's expected of motherhood that like I found that I don't like and feel guilty. I think I talk about it with people pretty often. I don't know how I didn't know this. I've babysat and taken care of kids my whole life. I do not like imagination play. Like it's hard for me. I'm like, especially when the kid's a toddler and they're like controlling the narrative and they're like, you said that wrong. And I'm like, do you want me to play or do you want me to just sit here? Because like this isn't fun for me. So turning that into like finding time that I can like just like go and do what she wants, but like enjoy myself doesn't have to be the imagination play that is expected of me. I play Barbies with her, don't get me wrong. But a lot of times I'll turn that imagination play into like we go into the backyard and we imagine that we're on an adventure and stuff like that. But like getting out of that and being like, I'm not a bad mom for not wanting to play Barbies with you.
Yeah, you find that good balance. And I feel that so hard. I also do not enjoy imagination play. Like when they're like, let's play house. I'm like, no!
I'm like, there she's
No.
like, "What? Who are you?" I'm like, "Mommy." I'm mommy.
Yeah, but I'm like, I also get, it's like you said, there is such a balance of doing things that they love, like for them, but also maybe not doing it every time or finding things that you also love, like you with the plants and including them. Like it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. Like you can feel both things, do both things, but also not like overwhelm yourself.
Yeah. Sometimes I
Like
set a
you don't have
timer.
to just, yeah, it's like you don't have to just do things because they like it. And it's good for them to learn. It's not always about what you want.
Right. Well, and I know, like, again, here goes Hav trying to explain things to a 3-year-old that 3-year-olds have a hard time with, but I'm trying to teach her that, like, we don't always have to do things that other people wanna do. If we want to play with somebody, sometimes we have to adjust. So if I wanna spend time with Azzy, sometimes mommy has to play Barbies for 15 minutes so that I can
Right.
make sure that I get in that alone time with her. When she's at the park, sometimes she will have to change what she wants to play because she wants to play with somebody. But if she wants to do what she wants to do more so than she wants to play with that person, then it's okay to go be on the swing instead of playing chase today. And I feel like we always talk about kids hear everything and they do what you do and stuff, but sometimes I feel like, at least for me, I forget that I'm leading by example with everything that I do. So sometimes telling her, "Hey, mommy doesn't feel like doing this today," or, "Hey, I got 15 minutes to play dolls with you before I have to get up and do the next thing, and you can come help me do the next thing." But I think that's been a nice middle ground that we've found, and it feels a lot less toxic than me being angry about playing for hours a day and not getting anything done that I wanna get done, but it also gives her attention and time that she needs without her, like, she reads, I don't know about all toddlers, but she reads my emotions like a freaking and she feeds off of it. So, it does better in our house for us to have like a, "Okay, mommy says I'm done now and we can go be happy and do something else," because
Yeah, it works. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a great point. Like you can be grateful and enjoy those moments and yet still sometimes be overwhelmed, overstimulated and need some time where you're like, okay, like no, But I think it's normal to find parts of anything draining.
yeah,
And so I think it's weird that we view it like, oh, maybe we find something in motherhood draining. It's like, oh, we're instantly a failure. We're instantly a bad mom. It's like you can be like like struggle's normal and it's normal in anything. It doesn't matter the relationship, it doesn't matter the situation. Like you don't have to enjoy every part, but you can still love your kids.
right. Well, and that too, I think on the you not having to enjoy every part, I was so quick to make not excuses because 'cause they're not excuses, but, like, be like, "Oh," when newborn stage with Tony and being like, "Well, this, like, you can't soothe her like I can," and stuff, and making, like, and being like, "It's okay. This makes sense." But as soon as it came to doing things like pretend play and stuff, and he's so good at it, and she and him have so much fun. Most of it is like wrestling and stuff, but that is their pretend play, and she loves it. And me being like, I should just be that parent for you, but also finding who we are as parents and being different people, that works perfect for him. And I've gotten more comfortable saying, "Hey, that's a daddy game. Like, you're gonna go play that with daddy when he gets home. I don't like the roughhousing," stuff like that, which I think might is like a good lead into figuring out who you are now as a parent and what that looks like with your kid and without your kid, and me realizing that Tony is the fun parent and I am the get no, I am fun, but it definitely is
Well, and
like
it's also a good reminder that there are well, maybe not all of us, but some of us do have partners and we can share the load. Like you
right.
don't have to just take on all the load. And I think that's a great point. But anyway, sorry, continue.
No, that's 100%, and I also like, if you don't have a partner, you still don't have to do it all because it's good to teach your kid, in my opinion, that there's just some things that we don't like, and we can respectfully say, "No, no, we're not doing that." But, no, yeah, I was just thinking about how, like, my personality as a parent and my personality as an individual is so much different than what it was and what I expected it to be. That was, like, a whole grappling situation of, like we said, right? Like, I love my kids, but I miss who I was. With me figuring out my new personality, and we talk about this a lot, like, I'm so much more myself, but in such a different way. My confidence is different. My style, I say, is what I would have wanted it to be before, but it's different, right? Like, the way that I interact with people is different, And a lot of it is because I'm a parent. So, like, how do we figure out what that looks like?
Because I think it's definitely an acknowledgement. Like, I hate when people are like, it doesn't change. No, it does. Like, you can say what you want, and we'll actually have another episode about that, but it does change. It's like, no matter, I don't know. It does change. So I agree. I think you're allowed, like, grieve the old you,
Mhm.
feel the feelings. Like, don't let them consume you, because unfortunately, like, the change has happened.
Right.
You're not going back, whether you want to or not. And like I've said, change is hard. So this is just another chapter, and that means it's time to find new ways to enjoy yourself and redefine who you are. And I actually, for me, I'm excited to do it. Like,
Mhm.
I feel like there's a lot of things I've yet to even get into, or that I didn't enjoy as much before, but I'm like, hey, I want to do that now. Like, for example, homemaking tasks, like doing bread
Yeah.
or canning, or I don't know, having a garden. Like, it's just funny because those things a few years ago, I'd have been like, nope. Now I'm
Right.
like, you know what? I kind of like that idea. And so, yeah, I think it's a good time to revisit old joys in new ways, identify things you used to love, maybe your hobbies, passions, whatever, and then kind of find bite-sized ways to bring them back. Like Hoff said, let your kids be in on it. Or like, even for me, I'm starting to pick up back up things like I said, gardening, whatever. But I also like doing some DIYs. And it's funny because I'm not done with Dash's nursery yet, LOL. And so even this weekend, I was working on like his name to go on the wall. And I did a little bit here and there. And sometimes he would like sit next to me. Obviously, he didn't help, but like, it's just including him. And so, yeah, I think it is hard when you're in a new season, but I think it does lead for a lot of opportunities it's opening doors,
Yeah.
honestly.
No, I totally agree. And I am actually really excited to see you get back into, because I just remember being in the stage that you're in and just wondering, like, all I wanted at that point was my old self. I was like, when am I just going to feel like I can do some of the things that I want to do? And do I have the time for everything that I want now? Absolutely not. But I feel so much more like an actual human. Like, I feel better than I did, I think, before having Azzy, because I'm so much more sure of myself and how, like, exciting it is that I get opportunities to do these things. Whereas before, I think you definitely take some of that stuff for granted. But it really is like, what do you still like? What do you have more confidence in? Would I have ever made a TikTok video before Azzy and posted it? Absolutely
Maybe.
not. Well, okay, to be fair, I made makeup videos, right? But now I'm just like, I think at the core, I'm exactly who I was before having Azzy, but I'm much more like, I don't care what you think about it. And like you said, the things that I didn't do before that I love now, like making bread. Like, Azzy taking a bite of mommy's bread and being like, "Mommy, you did such a good job," brings me so much joy. And I always liked doing, like, I've always done my own nails and I do my own hair and I make certain things, but like the homekeeping is a surprise for me. A lot of the things that I enjoy are like cooking with her. I'm like, this is so much fun. Aggravating a little bit, a lot of it. But at the same time, it's like, okay, these are things that, like, when she was one, thinking about her cooking with me was like, oh my God, please don't. But it gets, like, cute.
Yeah. And I think you make an excellent point. And again, maybe this is another topic we'll discuss later, but I think the biggest thing, it's just hard when your time has changed. Like, for me, it was learning how to time manage in a different way. It's like
Mhm.
you have to accept some things aren't just going to get done. Some things are going to have to wait until you do have more time, things like that. Like, because I'm obviously, like you said, when you're in this phase, and I'm very much in this phase, and I'm finally starting to get my time back and stuff. And it was just like for those first, I don't know, 9 months, 8 months, whatever, you're kind of like, I don't know. I was restless. It was like, I want to do all this stuff. And then I felt like I didn't have any time to do this stuff. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's just also reminding yourself, like, sometimes you're not going to be able to do it all, because
Yeah,
that's just the reality of this new life.
it's true, which is a hard thing to face, and I'm, like, kind of
Mhm.
excited to see how it goes for you. I think, um, for me, there was a phase where I didn't want to do anything. We talked about this in
Mhm.
our self-care episode, right? But, like, I as soon as I got my time back, I was like, "I have time to read. I have time to watch Netflix." I didn't wanna start any hobbies, I didn't wanna do anything. Now I'm like, "Oh, I have time. I can read, or I can go do this activity that I wanna do. Maybe I actually wanna leave the house today. It's more fun leaving the house," stuff like that. But I think you're really in honestly in the season of like, how do you redefine this new season of life? For me, I'm still figuring it out. And I'm kind of excited to see what it's like with a second one. Like, I feel like I might
Yeah.
enjoy this pregnancy more because I know that I'll make it through and maybe I'll be different in like a better way. But how do you go about taking what you know about yourself now, what you knew about yourself then, and redefining yourself into a new, like kind of a new identity? And I know for me, allowing myself to let go of a lot of who I expected I would be and like not holding on to things. Like there are things that I'm like, quote unquote, more childish about than I thought I would be. But I'm allowing myself, like, our friend tells me I'm dramatic. Bree tells me I'm more dramatic now than I've ever been. And it's true. I am. I'm way more dramatic than I used to ever be. But like, I earned that. So I'm gonna be dramatic. But does that feel weird to me to like speak up and be the person who's like taking air out of the room, right? Like I used to, whatever happens, happens. You know me, like go with the flow, chill, whatever. But now I'm like, no. Even when Azzy's not there, I surprise myself sometimes and I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. So like, yeah, kind of going through the hard feelings of realizing that I'm not who I was before. Some things I really like, some things I'm like, this is weird. But I would say, like, I definitely, and I tell you all the time, like, tell me the messy feelings. Don't feel bad for feeling guilty about anything. If I didn't have you, I would have freaking lost it because I would have been like, feel judged and stuff. But like, I think that's how you get to where you're going.
Yeah. And I think you made a really good point when you said adding another child, because I do think it can change,
Yeah.
especially when you're adding a kid. Like you just said, maybe you're going to be happy or stuff, but then maybe they get here and you're like feeling right back in the same thing or whatever. Like we just don't know. And so it's not fun, but it is interesting to think about when you add a child or things like that, how things can change.
Hmm.
So I think just to kind of like wrap it up, I think you can miss who you used to be. It's
Hmm.
normal. It's okay to grieve her, but it's also an opportunity to embrace this new stage you're in. And so if this is how you've been feeling, like I know Hav and I have definitely have had these feelings. If there's one thing that you love, but it doesn't easily fit into your typical, like in quotes, motherhood persona, how can you fit it into who you are now? Like Hav said, maybe you include your kid, or what I said, maybe you just find a few minutes and that's all you have. But it's like definitely find ways to you can love your kids, you can grieve your old self, but you can also find ways to enjoy this new season that
Yeah.
you're in.
Absolutely. And just adding this last thing in, because I don't think we've
Yeah.
talked about it, but it's been on my mind lately. You can find new ways to find yourself, but you also have to find ways to give yourself space to not be doing the things that you want to be doing. A lot of times I have the expectation that I can go to the park with Azzy and I can read my book, but in reality, my mom brain is on and there's no way I'm reading my book or listening to my podcast because like I can't see her when she runs around the jungle gym. So there's things that like I know as part of finding myself is also like getting myself to like be okay with things not being exactly how I want them. So find yourself
100%.
and like live in that like it's okay to feel like this sucks, but like try to find the joy in the stuff that you don't
Mhm.
normally enjoy doing.
And remind yourself it's a season.
Well, yeah.
They're not going to be little forever. And it's like you might as well embrace that season because it's like what our parents always say. You're going to look back and be like, blah, blah, I went,
Right.
you went. And maybe not, but it's just a good reminder that it's like you can finish the book later. I agree. Because I definitely struggle with that of like, I take even work and I'm like, oh, I'll be able to do it here. And then I'm like, where was my delusion coming from?
Right. But I also should say that's coming from two people who hated that like being told to live in the moment during like the
Right,
early
right.
stages. So just know like from people who know you
Yes.
probably hate hearing it, it is true. Try to live in the moment as much as possible, but don't let that like eat at you. Like if you don't want
Right.
to be in the moment for a minute, it's okay.
100. Hav made such an excellent point. I hated hearing that because, yeah, especially when you're sleep deprived, you're like, I'm trying, but I'm also really miserable. And I get it. People mean well. Obviously, I just said it because there is some truth to it. But
Mhm.
at the same time, if you are real deep into it, it can be hard to feel that way.
Yeah.
So great point. But as always, stick with us as next week we are going to be hitting a big topic all about cutting family ties. But honestly, this could apply to any hard, toxic relationships. It does not have to just be family. People always have something to say, but like, when is it too much? So Join us next week as we dive into it and discuss when enough is enough. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for sharing your time with us today. We're so glad you're part of this messy, beautiful village.
If this episode made you laugh, cry, or feel just a little more human, pass it on to a mom friend who needs it too. And hey, if you haven't already, hit subscribe and leave us a review. It helps more moms find the show and gives us a tiny dopamine hit. Let's be real.
Until next week, keep the kids alive and your coffee hot, or at least reheated once.